Hello, everyone. It is an exciting Saturday, and not just because I am awake early, because that never happens unless I have to be. But I have to be awake early because NACL week number one for the summer in terms of qualifiers starts here today. I got Alls with me. We've not worked together. I'm excited for this opportunity as well. How are you doing, Alls?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here on the desk with you for CCG this afternoon, morning. I suppose with the way the American time zones are, everyone's all over the place. I am also awake fairly early for myself, but that's fine. We're all hype, we're all energetic, and we're going to have a great day today.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have a great day. And, we're going to have a pretty quick pre-show here because we want to get right into game number one and then talk about game number two after the fact, of course. So definitely stick around after this one. But coming up here, we have, of course, CCG, and we're going up against the Beagle brothers. And this is a pretty fun roster that we have in front of us, honestly, for everybody, right? There have been a lot of swaps. There have been a lot of changes between the end of the spring split and the beginning of the summer here. So I guess, you know what, first, let's talk about CCG a little bit and what you kind of expect. Do we have a graphic for that? I should ask these things beforehand. We don't? Okay, we don't have graphics. That's right. We'll have graphics next time. I gave somebody a job without them knowing it. So let's talk about what we have been seeing from CCG Esports, or what we have set up here. Top laner, Shocky, Munchie. We got Rain in the mid, Lunar for bot, and then Brahudo. I always tongue tie that one. In the support. So in terms of CCG, where in particular are you looking today, Alls, for a lot of the action to take place, or do you think it's going to be a lot of these long haul games that just kind of slowly ramp up over time?
Well, I'm looking to see a lot of aggression out of Munchie. Their champion pool, their play is very aggressive. They love to be the center of attention, really fighting through with the Rengars, the Yees, the Viegos. They take a lot of the pressure onto themselves. So I'm looking forward to seeing a whole lot of early aggression trying to get these lanes ahead, whether it's Shocky or Rain or Lunar. All of them seem to love to be that center of attention themselves. They love to play these aggressive champions that can take on the role of the main carry for this team. So I think we're going to see some hyper aggression early. I think this team's going to be looking to scale up really hard and take these games by storm.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Because so far, I would say with the new split, we've been looking at a lot of like slow games, a lot of anticipation of going into late game, a lot of scaling. But I guess it can go both ways. We saw for the Aegis Champion League week number 2 yesterday for CCG. Of course, that's going to be a different roster than the one that we're looking at running today. You had one game that was like 35 minutes. You have one game that was 25 minutes. So I think once CCG is able to hit their stride, this might end up being a quick series. I mean, but again, that's just as CCG fans that we hope to see here. But it is going to be Realms in the top, Devil DeGray in the jungle, Big Beagle, there's the namesake, in the mid lane, Deathwalker, and then Z-Score for the side of Beagle Brothers. I think something else that really excites me here about this summer split in particular, this qualifier, is how many new names we've been seeing as well. Not just returning people, but really a lot of emerging talent, right? And a lot of it's got to be young talent at this point.
Yeah, it's great to see some local names, some new faces that are really coming up. I know it's been in the upper levels of NA a little bit strange recently, what with the strike in LCS, people not wanting to be outplaced by external talent, folks being imported. So it's nice to see all these new names, nice to know that we're getting a lot of talent locally who's really showing that they can play at the highest levels here.
Yeah, highest level. Looks like we got players now entering the lobby. And it's true. Yeah, highest tier of play is what we expect to see, especially, with everything that's been going on, right? Kind of a rocky start, I would say, to the start of this qualifier. But that might give some opportunities, like I said, to some of the organizations or the players that are looking to get a little bit more traction right now. So we're excited to see how things go, and we're excited to see CCG do well again. Are there any teams in particular, after looking at some of these rosters, that if you don't have an answer, this is no big deal. I'm just currently looking at it right now, and I'm like, holy cow. Are there any of the teams in particular that you have seen that maybe has a really good combo on it, or has just a certain lane or something like that that's going to be incredibly dominant?
Well, I haven't seen a whole lot of that jumps out at me immediately. I do recognize a couple of these names as players that I have seen play very well. Boil the Oil has always been incredibly consistent, especially when paired with Dong Pro. That's on Young Buffaloes, seed number 16 here in the NACL. I'm also curious, we always know Dardoch has rotated around the Rift trying to reclaim some of their earlier luck, skill in LCS, trying to reclaim their spot there. So Mirage Alliance is something to look for with Dardoch playing support. But overall, there's a lot of new names, there's a lot of question marks, and I'm coming in a little bit blind to some of these teams. I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring.
Yeah, I think actually a lot of us. The first, and I've been doing. I mean, I did CLOL for the last like 3 years. I've done Proving Grounds, all that kind of stuff. And so, for me, at like half of these names, I'm like, these are mainstays currently in the scene. I've been saying these names for years at this point, and then the other half, I'm like, am I missing something? Am I forgetting? Did somebody change their name, or is this all just like a brand new roster? The top, I'm just gonna keep talking about this for a while because we're still waiting on a few more players to enter the lobby. Big surprise. Wow, would you look at that? The players aren't perfectly on time. No.
Wild.
It's insane. Um, but some of these teams, the ones that are at the top of the seeding are ones that you kind of expect, right? Mirage Alliance being up there towards the top. Winthrop, of course. Team Ambition has been doing great. But some of these newer ones, some of these newer names are pretty exciting to me. I'm looking at, like Alex's Grandpa Gamers. That's Sunlight. You got RBM there. You got Evan RL and Clyde. Those two in particular for a bottom lane are incredibly good. I like Froggy 5 as well. That's Colthrow's team. Colthrow is. I love that he's the coach and that he's also playing in this one. He's one of the most fun people in the scene. He's just got such a good attitude. So I'm excited to see how his team does. And maybe that's another big part of this. I'm also excited to see some of these players that I've seen for such a long time step into that coach role. So what can you say about, I'm assuming you've now got, at least got the thing pulled up, like the,
Oh yes,
the Excel page. All right, cool. I wanted to give you some time just in case it wasn't. But what about the coaches? Like, what are you seeing in terms of maybe some coaches that you're excited to see come back or that you are excited to see emerge in this new role?
Well, as I'm looking through here, I'm seeing a few names that I recognize. I've been following Chaotic largely because I've been working for them a fair bit recently. Crow's done some pretty great things, even if the Chaotic team hasn't had a lot of success in ACL, in the upper levels of Metashift, etc. They're still playing very well, and I've seen them grow as a team through the past few months. So they're kind of a dark horse team for me to really show up here. Again, I think Crow's been doing some great stuff with some players that are individually skilled, but not necessarily working well as a team. He's done a lot with driving them together. So he in particular is high on the list there as a fairly new coach that's done a whole lot.
Yeah, that's the exciting thing. That's the most exciting, probably a fairly new coach that has done a lot. There's a lot of that in particular coming in on this one. I'd love to see names like, like Pacus right now, just completely in that coach role. We're looking at Scooped as well. Of course, who is also playing, which is always a fun dynamic, right? Because it's not like it has to be a separate coach for these kind of games. You can have the coach that is also a primary player, not even just a sub. Because a lot of the times that's kind of how they used to do it. They used to just throw the coach on as the sub, right? And then have a completely separate roster. But there's a lot of fun stuff. Crow, as you were talking about, it's exciting to see. Euler, we also have been talking about for a while now. And then, of course, the classics, right? Hybrids is another one that I'm stoked to see jump over to this without actually, playing on this one. But like I said, lots of names that are just so familiar. So let's see. Let me take a look and see. Let's check in. With the other side of the broadcast, which is the game. The actual
Only a
broadcast.
little bit important here. Talking is more important.
It looks like it's ready. Draft is ready. Let's do it. Pull it up. Get in here. Let's go. Ba-boom. Alrighty. This is my favorite part, aside from the actual game.
getting to see what these teams think is important and how badly they miss the mark, right? Sometimes we see these teams think that they're really trying to ban out one player, and turns out they're gonna go for a more supportive role. I've loved seeing that a lot. We're gonna ban out 6 mid laners, and then they pick a Galio.
Yep, right. I think that this season, I really like this season. All right, guys, because honestly, 13, it finally feels like over the last several years, Riot has been trying to do this thing where they're like, we want every champion to be able to be played. We want people to be able to one trick anything. And we want it to be about skill expression as opposed to just the meta, right? And I think they've done a really good job with that. There are a lot of these pocket picks where at the end of the day, you might end up locking something in that somebody says that's not in the meta, and it works out great. Whereas I'm talking over now the lock-ins, and it looks like Beagles, they have locked in that Melio to start things off with, which is, it's an interesting first pick blue side, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very powerful support. It definitely opens up a lot for the bot lane to be able to survive a lot of matchups, but it's not necessarily hyper aggressive here for the Beagle boys, and it does allow CCG to respond to it a little bit. Obviously, Melio with the Ultra Mega Fire Kick, with the healing, and even with the cleanse once you hit level 6 makes it a very safe lane, so I might not be expecting CCG to put as much pressure in. That being said, they did immediately respond with the Lucian, so a little bit of aggression anyway here. The Wukong as well means that we're going to see, as expected, some hyper aggression from Munchie here in the jungle.
Oh yeah, that's what I want to see. That's kind of the other side of the current season as well. And the other side of that not being based on a meta is if you can get some really early push, right? If you can get some early feed and then continue to utilize that throughout the game to pressure early, you have a really good opportunity for yourself. And then it's up to the other team to respond to that, right? You get the reactionary play. And that's where the game kind of takes its split, right? Decides, okay, I'm going in either favor, either direction here. So we got the Nami. I'm a big Nami fan. I hate playing support. I hate being good at support because I'm a girl and it's just, one of those cliche things. But Nami is one of those, she's got the hard CC, and she's another one of those too that you buy Shirelias on. I still slam Shirelias, by the way, for supports. Doesn't matter.
Hey.
And you get, especially with a team like this, the mobility that you're gonna have available with somebody like a Nami on the team, spectacular.
Yeah, and we have seen a few people start to say that they're not liking the Lucian Nami as much, that they feel like it's weaker. I strongly disagree. It's still one of the most powerful duos with the Lucian here in the bot lane. That being said, we do see the Kog'Maw pickup for Deathwalker here, and I really do love Kog'Maw Melio because with the stack Ws, Kog'Maw is able to fire all across the lane, and while Nami has a lot of healing, a lot of sustain in her kit, it's still enough that you can start beating them down. Nami does have pretty high mana costs, so if you can go ahead and get that pressure out early, you can help negate some of that aggression here and really keep this Kog'Maw healthy and scaling to late.
Yeah, so basically, get that Nami to miss her bubble, right? is kind of the idea, like bait it out, which is, it's a scary and difficult thing to do, especially as somebody with not a lot of mobility. You've got a Lucian, you can at least dash away, right? But that means that CCG is looking for the full initiations really early on. And I was gonna say there's some high picks that I'm really surprised that we're not seeing here. Of course, Zoe was banned out there. High priority. Syndra as of late has also been, I think, high priority. She's really strong right now. The Gwen, of course, is pretty disgusting at the moment. But the Ahri is one that's just kind of come back in as a standard. All right, we want to get early pressure, right? We want to be able to get some solid engages when it comes to maybe some roam down from the river. Ahri's fantastic for that right now. She's in a really good place.
Yeah, absolutely. The Spirit Rush offers a lot of mobility. However, with Alessandra on the other side here, it does help lock that down. If Lunar dashes in aggressively, gets locked down, and Devil is anywhere in a 5-mile radius just about, they'll be able to turn that kill back. So for Rain, gonna have to temper the aggression a little bit here, make sure that they're using that Spirit Rush properly, but if they can get those roams off, if they can push the Lissandra in, as we see a Kindred pickup to round out the team. So that's gonna put this Maokai in the top lane. That's a bit of a curveball to me here.
Yeah, that is a bit of a curveball, but Maokai is another one that I get it. Maybe it's just a personal thing. Maybe I've had, particularly experiences with Maokai. I feel like whenever anyone's like, oh yeah, Maokai's busted right now, when you take him into lane, he's just so, he's easy to shut down. He's not incredibly overpowered. It's not like oh, Maokai's snowballing. Nobody's ever said that, right? Because Maokai, it takes so long to ramp up, right? You're doing some good solid damage, but you're not going to be snowballing out of control. So I really like what CCG is bringing in here in response. The Kindred is a lot of really good damage though. And I like flex picks early on, so I'll give it to them for the Maokai as well. But when I'm just looking at these overall, these two drafts, I really, really like CCGs in particular, knowing that Rain is able to play this one pretty safe.
Yeah, I have a different opinion on the Maokai because you're not expecting
excellent.
the Maokai to hyper carry. I am a tank player. I love my tanks. I love the big beefy boys that just never die. And Maokai is the epitome of that. With the sap magic, being able to heal up so much in extended fights, yeah, you're not going to necessarily be doing a whole lot of damage, especially now that they've changed Demonic Embrace on him. That's a few patches back, but it was very bad for a while. But he's tanky, he absorbs a lot of pressure, and he's able to cause so much disruption with the Bramble Smash, with the Nature's Grasp, with the Twisted Advance. It's just a whole lot that teams have to play around that many other champions can't quite bring to the table.
Let's see how they do it though, because I have a feeling CCG is going to be able to deal with it. And again, this is my personal experience. I like to bring that up occasionally because I like to see if I've cursed it or if I've brought it to fruition. Not that I have any really influence on the world, but I like to.
Okay, hey, caster curse is a real thing.
It's true. It's true. And you know what? If it gives us power, even if it's in a bad way, then I'll take that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think maybe with Maokai Big Power, I think while yes, his passive is great, right? It's super basic. I think it's underpowered. I think it's too basic. I think
really,
yeah. So I get, yeah. It's. I mean, there's like the equivalent of other champions too that have essentially the same thing, right? And it is at its most basic form. You just you wait for the cooldown, you heal when you hit. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm done talking about Maokai because now I want to talk about the overall, I guess, and how you think this game is going to play out here. Alt, where are you seeing First Blood?
I think we're going to see it in the top lane here. I think whether or not the Olaf and Wukong is in the jungle or in the top lane, as we do see the Wukong locked in on the jungle, there's going to be a lot of pressure early from the Olaf. Obviously, Undertow is incredibly powerful, and with the style of picks and play that Munchie likes to bring to the table, I'm expecting some aggression. They're going to know that that lane is going to be in their advantage. So I would almost even predict, and this is very bold, I'm aware, but I would almost predict a red buff take immediately into a level 2 gank top to try and take down Realms.
All right. I'd be stoked for that. I want to see. I think I want to see a level 3 into bottom lane to get a kill for Lunar and Rahudo right here. I think that's kind of where I'm anticipating something. I'm expecting, I'm expecting a level 3 rotation coming out of Munchie, and I'm really happy too. Actually, I even wrote in pen. I wrote the Olaf in the top lane and the Wukong in the jungle. I didn't even think about it. I'm like, that they could swap there. But I am very glad that is how they're locking this one in. I think up against Realm Shock, he's going to have a lot better time in the later game, unless what you are predicting ends up working out for Beagle Brothers, because at that point, right, if you set Shocky behind pretty early on, it's going to take some recovery. The nice thing is that even if Olaf gets set behind, you're going to scale in a really good way for the team fight. So at the end of the day, just try not to feed, right? And you're going to be able to do a decent amount of damage and absorb a lot once you hit that 15-20 minute mark, either way, no matter what. So if that is where BB ends up putting all of their influence and focus, I mean, of all the champions to set behind here for CCG, yeah, go for it, right? Focus the Olaf. Don't look at our Lucian Nami in the bottom lane that is a lot more like a provocative matchup here.
Yeah, I mean, I am a little concerned about Devil to Grey. I think with the winning lanes that CCG has, it's going to allow Munchie to really aggress on them, and it might put the Kindred behind, so BB is going to have to be careful. But we'll see what happens. I'm very confident for CCG in this game one. I think they've got a great draft, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on the Rift.
Well, we're always looking forward to seeing the game start, but we have to wait, unfortunately, for delay. And wait, what was that? I got a note. Alrighty, yeah, you know what? Why not? Why not keep you guys in anticipation at home, right? We're going to send it to a really quick break. When we get back, we are going to be once into this game one here between Beagle Brothers and CCG. Don't go anywhere. North American Challengers League 2023 Summer Qualifier number 1. We're finally here. We're finally getting started, and we're kicking things off with the Beagle Brothers going up against CCG. I still don't know what that stands for, and I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, CCG stands for 3 letters: C,
Yeah.
C, and G.
C?
Pretty straightforward,
CG?
right? Yeah, exactly.
It's me, Jolly, and also, of course, I got with me. And you know what? This is going to be a fun one. This is a lot of players I think that we are pretty unfamiliar with, and we're really excited to get the stories started on these.
Yeah, lots of new players, and of course, with a season as wild as Season 13, it means lots of new play styles, which is almost even more fun here. Seeing all kinds of craziness coming out as patches change the meta by the day, it feels like. You know, one match, you're seeing absolute chaos in one direction. The tanks are out in force. And the next match, suddenly tanks are the weakest thing on Earth. So it's been a lot of adjustment for these players as they go through the season. And that's been great. It's left us with some real fun types of games here.
Yeah, thank you so much to Rain for picking the summoner name 202305527 on this alternate account. I'm going to refer to this Ari as either Rain or Ari. I'm not going to say those numbers every time. Sorry, Rain. There are, let's see, I think that is the only, oh, and then Munchie we have is, what is that? What?
Pussy Poo, apparently.
Pussy Poo? Well, yeah, wait. That's a weird, okay, I'm not sure what they're going for on that one, but.
We're going to go with Munchie.
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, we'll go with Munchie or Wukong, same kind of thing. So if we refer to those players, once for people to jump in a little bit later on, if they're like, who are they talking about? I'll bring that one back up. On the other or the opposite side, everything's looking pretty solid though.
Yeah, not a whole lot of action so far. I'm very sad here, Jolly. My prediction has been proven false as Wukong just deciding to full clear the jungle. We did see some hyper aggression from Shocky early, obviously, as they've got this pretty nice CS lead in the top side. Realms pushed all the way into turret, but unfortunately, no gank to be seen.
No gank, and this is kind of what I expected for this top lane, right? It's just going to be a kind of a duke him out at the beginning of this one, and Shocky is really investing in it. Look at that. Gonna miss the Q there. Maybe an opportunity to try to take down Realms, but either way, it's a lot of pressure that's coming through from both of these teams, and we're going to see a really early reset from Shocky.
Yeah, just going to get an extra longsword, maybe some consumables here. Trying to push the advantage that an early Olaf has before the Maokai gets to the later levels, before those base stats really ramp up, and crucially, before the sap magic gets a reasonable cooldown, as opposed to the 28 seconds that it is at level 1, because that's real helpful for sustain in lane.
Let's see. Okay, we've got some pings coming out here because we got the level 3 on the junglers. All right, we're seeing a lot of pings. We saw a bunch of pings coming out towards the bottom side at first from this Kindred, and then Wukong is pinging. He's going up towards that top Scuttle Crab. So the Scuttle is going to go to the Wukong. He just walks in, steals it away, and walks out. Devil to Grey, thank you so much for the leash.
Yeah, and that's really great positioning there by CCG, knowing that both lanes had such a pressure advantage that Rain and Shocky could roam down, allowed Munchie here to be hyper aggressive, to just walk in, to not care. Big Beagle was obviously already poked out. Realms was stuck trying to push that lane back to a normal state, so the Wukong was very free. And now looking to immediately rotate back to the other side, where again, with pressure advantages, can be hyper aggressive here and try to double scuttle before 5 minutes here would really open up the map and keep Devil to Grey from getting those stacks early. It's what you want to see when you're facing a Kindred.
Yeah, I'm really, with that engage as well, I'm really impressed with Munchie because you saw Big Beagle sitting there, a stone's throw away from tower, but sitting incredibly low. And, Munchie says, I'm going to recall. I'm going to take it back. I'm going to get another longsword, right? We're going to continue to work on increasing the amount of damage that we can do early on. Because like I said, that's kind of the meta currently is be really aggressive, do as much damage as you possibly can, try to force out these early leads for your team or for the damage dealers in particular, and then just make sure that you take the right steps to guarantee the hold essentially on that overhead that you've got. I love how aggressive Munchie's been all game though. I gotta say that. I'm also a big fan of Wukong.
Yeah, Wukong's a fun champion to see, whether it's in the top lane or in the jungle, and Munchie's taking advantage of that. We did mention in draft that the Kindred would potentially be vulnerable here, and Munchie's taken full advantage of that. Is down a little bit in CS, but just pressure-wise, the Kindred not being able to get anything done early is very great. That being said, looking to try and get into these bushes sneakily, although Deathwalker's not in a great spot right now, having been caught up by that bubble, so I do think that CCG should be pretty alright here.
You feel as Lunar and Brahudo here, you feel so good at being, almost 6 minutes into the game, and Lunar has just now hit half mana. Brahudo, though, unfortunately in a scary place, is gonna have to flash away from this. What is this gonna be? First blood? Yes, Devil to Grey able to pick it up. Literally, as I'm saying, you gotta feel good. They die, so.
I tell you, man, Caster Curse is real.
Oh, we got replays? Let's do it. We didn't have replays yesterday for the Age Champion League. Super fun games if you guys want to go back and watch those on the CCG channel here. But all right, let's toss. Do we have a replay?
Yeah, replay is live. We're watching.
I'm watching Parsec, so maybe that's my problem.
Toss it over to the other stream on Discord.
Right,
yeah, we do see Perudo just completely misses the bubble as Devil jumps forward, just taking all the damage straight to the face. Nearly doesn't proc that Q, but Kindred able to take it.
Cool. Alrighty, that means I have to swap my focus over to... Got to swap my focus over to this one if we got replays, which is a good thing. I'm glad that that is up and running. Thank you so much, Girth. But we see our first blood, and don't want to toot my own horn, but bottom lane.
Yeah, I'd bow my head to you. You got it right.
Yeah, doesn't happen very often. So you know what? I'm gonna milk this one. We also
Hey, take
see,
what you can get.
yeah, right. We see the ocean drake sitting down there as well. We've got the question mark pings coming out here. I'm assuming that we're gonna see now Munchie come down to take this lower scuttle crab. It has been a little bit of, I would say, vision domination, not quite domination, but you know, close to it here for CCG. Beagle Brothers have really had to just play defensively in terms of vision. Let's take a look. Look at Gurf, you're the best, dude. Thank our producer. Look at that.
Absolutely incredible here. Yeah, we see a bunch of wards in the river, and we did see earlier Munchie pushing in, getting those control wards deep into the jungle to try and track Devil to Grey. Those are starting to get cleared out now, so the Kindred's going to be a little bit sneakier, but more invades, more deep vision, and more aggression from Munchie. Just unrelenting here in the jungle.
And that's what we want to see. That's what we need to see from a team like this for CCG, right? We're not looking into the ramping scaling. That is the Beagle Brothers. Beagle Brothers absolutely want ramping scaling. You're talking, you've got a Kindred, you've got a Lissandra, you've got a Kog'Maw on your team. The last thing you want is for this game to go quickly, right? Unless you're kind of starting to snowball those champions early on. So CCG has to be really careful with this, because if Beagle Brothers do push their advantage in the bottom lane and continue to pressure out this Lee Sin and the Nami, that, like I said, is a really good pressure point that they can kind of hold over CCG and stop them from getting that early roll. I have one giant pixel for my screen. Not legitimately, but I'm gonna have to swap back and forth between these two broadcasts. Alls, are you there? Do we have Alls? Alls? I'm Alls alone. That's okay. We're gonna continue to cast this one, and I can do that on my own. And no surprise, Shocky and Realms, it's like I said, just kind of slapping each other in the face, right? One of them is eventually going to find a kill on the other, right? And it's either going to be Shocky with a good engage underneath that tower, or it's going to be Shocky getting stuck in a good engage underneath that tower, going down to Realms. But not a lot of movement in terms of the jungles actually moving to the lane, right? You want to get that control of the Rift Heralds, you want to get vision control at least down towards that part of the river, but no point in messing with the island game that's going on up top there. I'm really surprised we haven't seen Wukong in the bottom until now. We're finally getting some pressure here. The pings are coming out, and you've also got Rain moving down from the top lane. So lots of pressure and priority currently held by CCG, and Munchie is on the way to go in. In comes Rain, out comes the culling, but the TP is there, so CCG has to back off. Oh, and I'm alone. I forgot about that. So I can pause, though. I can take a breath. Devil to Grey back on their Raptors once again. Every single time Devil to Grey has been at these Raptors, Munchie's like, hey, hold on. Let me take a bite of that. Let me see what I can get here. It is Beagle Brothers, though, looking better as this goes on, right? That heavy aggression that CCG was putting in early, it really can't be maintained very much. I love Shocky's confidence on this one. You got that pink ward, you got that vision ward in the river bush. You're not expecting any sort of tri-bush trickery. So a lot of solid pressure that Shocky's just trying to force out of Realms. And win, at the end of the day, for this one, the easiest way to do it is to win that mana game, right? Try to get Realms to use as much as possible. There we go. Out comes the Ragnarok. It's a lot of damage. Realms has to flash away. Is the Q gonna hit? No, Realms just barely outside of that. Shocky did have Ghost and Flash available, but it wasn't a guaranteed kill, so good patience from Shocky on that one. I love to see it, though. I like to see aggressive top lanes. If it's going to be an island, it might as well be a fun island, right? A party island. Until, I guess, somebody starts dying a lot. Shocky going to have it back up there. A little bit of a reset across the map. And now a little bit more defensive vision coming out from CCG. But the pings towards this dragon pit are there. It's CCG pings that we're consistently seeing here. I'm not seeing a ton of that movement notification here from Beagle Brothers, but that's because they're just trying to set up in a way to potentially pinch off these members of CCG, right? They haven't gone for a really solid engagement aside from that first blood. I mean, we're almost 12 minutes into this and I haven't gotten the chance to do a single team fight because really it was just It was an engage, and that was it. There we go. The Colling's going to come out right after the tidal wave, and in comes, no, Munchie, but he's not actually able to get anything. He uses a double really early on to try to sneak into the fight, but it doesn't matter. They've got eyes on him. That means Big Beagle and Devil Degray might end up being the target here, but Z-Score and Deathwalker are in the wings and ready to push off this bottom lane. So they're just going to call it at that. This whole game has been such a tease. I'm not gonna lie. It's been like they're setting up, and nope, it's not gonna work. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of patience, right? I gotta say that. Let's see if this is working out. Hey, all right, we got better views here so that I can see the replays if we do end up doing that. All right, Rift Herald's coming out. CCG has pulled out the Rift Herald, and they are focusing on the bottom lane. Might as well do it. That's what Beagle Brothers are doing. That's where they're finding a lot of traction here. So Devil Degray has to kind of babysit this bottom lane, but it's a lot of damage that's going to come out of this Kindred. You got to be really careful if you're CCG here. Not quite enough movement. Beagle Brothers, if they had gotten just, a touch closer on that one, it could have spelled disaster really for CCG here. Miss Charm, again, such a tease of a game. You see the Ahri setup positioning, you see the Charm go out, and you see the Lissandra just walk right past it. No big deal. Okay, Munchie, I have been complimenting your aggression. You got to be careful. You got to know when to chill. If you sacrifice a lot of health as this Wukong, you're not going to be able to do what you need to do. Not only, obviously, clearing out the jungle, you need to have the ability to initiate on these fights if something breaks out, right? You've got really good mobility. You have a really good ability to engage onto things from, like, the backside. But if Munchie keeps kind of pushing his luck and losing too much health before those engagements occur, then he's just sort of more bait for Beagle Brothers to chomp into. They're still not really committing fully onto anything, and I think a lot of that has to do with good, like, solid vision, and now at this point, Shocky just kind of being everywhere he wants to be. It's a really high CS lead that he's got there. You can see 101 to 137. Stride Breaker already completed. That's going to be the first item. We got the Kraken Slayer as the first pickup here for Kindred, so she's looking at that extra early damage. And then Everfrost now done, so mid lane has completed their item, and then Dark Seal's picked up by both of those members. We, of course, have the Ginsus on that Cogmon there. The Charm is going to hit. The Spirit Rush first charge is going to come out, and so is Wukong's ultimate. The Cyclone, the Flash Forward, the additional Cyclone, and then we get Lamb's Respite. Is it going to be enough to take down the Ahri? No, the Culling from Lunar. We got so much damage now coming out of Lunar. He's been holding it back. Wukong trying to stop this one from re-engaging. In goes Big Beagle, though. He's going to follow that one up, and Lunar has go. What? Hold on. How did that not go over? Oh my lord, that should have gone over. All right, once I remember that the numbers are rain and so that I can easily I'm like doing play-by-play and alt-tabbing at the same time, like looking away from the screen. Just pretend I know what happens. Either way, kills going in the right place for Beagle Brothers, and the deaths onto the right players as well. It's still only 2-1 though. We're 15 minutes into this game, and we have had 3 kills. Let's take a look. We got replays. That's right. Woo, look at that fancy graphic. And it was a good charm. It was a good start at the Spirit Rush. Maybe a little bit early on that one. But the problem here is that tidal wave, you hit Devil Degray after the Lamb's Respite is already activated. You're just delaying the amount of damage that's being done. But now that so many ultimates are out, that's 3 ultimates that are out that have been expelled that really haven't accomplished a lot. Not nearly enough damage, and there's Lunar, unfortunately, not able to get the dash over the wall. That one looked like it should have gone. He basically took half a step forward into the wall. But again, that was so much that CCG just utilized, and almost no damage was done. And that's how this Beagle Brothers team is going to work out. It's not looking good for CCG, right? I really liked their comp, and I will say at the end of the day, when I'm looking at the comps on paper, I still do like CCG's better, but only if they're able to get that early pressure I was talking about. Without the early pressure, if you let Beagle Brothers get to the 20-minute mark here without CCG having a relatively legitimate lead, which I wouldn't consider this 1K really that far, then it's just going to go in favor of Beagle Brothers. They have such a scaling composition here. They're going to focus for CCG on the towers, and that's a good way to get things going. That's going to be a tower down for CCG, but of course, Beagle Brothers have both of the dragons that have currently spawned up. Now the ping's coming up from CCG. Finally, we want to get some pressure. We want to respond to this bottom lane, and we need to take a look at the view down there. Thank you so much. We lost Luna right off the bat, and nice. It's a beautiful route. It's a huge lockdown. There's a lot of CC coming through, and Shockey's going to make sure that he doesn't get locked up by throwing out Ragnarok. It's a peel away by the other two, which means, yeah, Shockey is absolutely going to go down. But Big Beagle is coming through on the other side. No way, the charm! Perfectly timed charm from Rain. It's going to be enough to save Munchie, but not the rest of the team. That one was certainly a good play coming out of Rain in particular. All right. That's finally I got a team fight, guys. I'm happy about it. I got a team fight. I get to do my job. It's not a good sign. It is not a good sign when you take Lucian Nami and you're 0-2-2, 0-2-3. Yeah, the CS is even. But CCG, we have seen Munchie and even Rain actually down in the bottom lane several times. And this is the first time they've actually been able to pick up a kill from it. You gotta get early pressure. You have to get something out of this bottom lane if you're going to be locking in, especially really early on. This was a first draft pick, or sorry, last 2 and 3. My goodness. 2 picks, 2 and 3 on that first round of the draft. So if you're going to double down like that on these damage dealers, you need to have that early presence. And unfortunately, Munchie just wasn't quite there enough. Shockey is kind of the saving grace here, and he's a really solid one. He's going to allow for the team to actually kind of stick to this Beagle Brothers team. The question is, can they get close enough to want to stick without taking too much damage? Because they're just not quite dealing the amount that they need to at this point. You're looking at Beagle Brothers getting too much resistance, too tanky. Even though it's a little bit of tank, it's still tank. That means that Shockey, he's going to run out with the Ragnarok. He's going to try to distract the Beagle Brothers while down in the bottom lane. They're looking to get a pinch on Lissandra, but she knows exactly what's going on. They're going to get the bottom tower, so that is a bit of a swap right there. It's going to be the third tower here for CCG. Now they got to switch their focus over to the Dragons. I think we're getting alls back in here.
Yeah, I do apologize. You know, Arizona, sometimes it's so hot here that everything just stops working. You hate to see it, but I am back, and thankfully, looks like the game is not over yet. CCG holding on pretty well, it looks like. So what did I miss, Jelly?
1 or 2 things happened. It was for the Zoe. Pretty much nothing. There was like 2 team fights. Shockey is currently kind of keeping this alive right now for CCG. I was just talking about how if you're going to first round pick Lucian Nami, you got to make early pressure with it. You have to do a lot of damage. You have to find some early kills. That's not the case, and that means that Lunar has just kind of been a sitting duck in all these fights. And speaking of sitting ducks, that is going to be Rain walking in and then going to a gray screen. That means Beagle Brothers are going to try to continue on with this fight. Wukong, Munchie has to walk away. And yeah, the longer this goes on, the better it's looking for the Beagle Brothers.
Yeah, they've managed to avoid the big early game push from CCG, or at least the push that this team needed, which is really unfortunate here for CCG because they drafted such a strong comp. But as we see Big Beagle continuing to put the aggression on, it looks like the kills are exactly where they need to be for the Beagle Brothers to just continue to push this. They have the Drakes, they have more win conditions on top of the kills, on top of the gold, on top of the map pressure. But we do see this Baron sneak. This is aggressive from CCG and might be their window back in.
Okay, let's see. It might be their window back in. Beagle Brothers, they know that something's going on. That's a lot of damage being dealt. It's at less than 2,000, but it's the engage coming out of Beagle Brothers. Down it goes. We get the smite coming out of CCG, and that's going to be the Cyclone one more time. In goes that Ragnarok. Shockey, who is dealing so much damage and never dying. I said that Shockey is going to be the one that keeps this composition alive, and it's so true. Actually forcing Realms to flash away from that one. That's the Baron buff on all 5 members of CCG, and they finally managed to take down Big Beagle in the mid lane for the first death. That was a spectacular play coming out of our boys.
That almost looked like I was watching Tryndamere gameplay. Oh, there we go. Come on. It really did feel like we were watching Tryndamere there, as Shocky just refusing to die no matter how much damage was sunk into them. It really, really impressive for that top laner, and really unfortunate for the Beagle brothers, because if they had managed to take down Shocky, I feel like the rest of this CCG team would have been fairly soon to fall after. But with the Baron take, with that massive team fight win, suddenly all we've been talking about the pressure being the Beagle brothers seems to have gone on its head. Yes, they still have 3 Drakes. Yes, they still have the scaling advantage, but there's a window here for CCG to turn that all around.
It's true, and I am insanely surprised that it worked that way because I feel like that's kind of League of Legends 101. Don't go for the tank in a team fight. All eyes were on Shocky. Everyone on the side of BB, they were just focusing Shocky. Nobody was like, hey, you know, Lunar, you know that Lucian that's 0-2 and 2? Let's go for him. No, it was because Shocky was so low. You can't give in to the bait of the Olaf like that, right? You have the Ragnarok triggered, so you're looking at unstoppability. You're not going to be able to get the lockdown. With that W, he's going to be sapping a lot of life off of you. We've already seen that he's playing incredibly aggressively, right? Don't fall for his tricks. Of course, I'm giving tip to the other side. But CCG, now that they've found some traction, they are going to continue pressuring in these lanes. They don't care about the dragons. They're going to want these extra towers and just rift pressure in the overall.
Yeah, they have 5 towers taken so far. Big Beagle is trying to get a little bit of a base race going here. Going to force at least one member to back here. Looks like they're going to send Rain. But still, starting to pull around the Beagle brothers. As long as you can force the enemy team to act responsive, you can win so many fights that you should otherwise lose. And for CCG, they've been doing that here. We do see a teleport defensively here, but it's stopped! Big Beagle is captured and will likely fall here. Beautiful charm by Rain.
Rain's charms this game have been something to behold. Shocky wants to try to engage on this one. There might be too many members. Out comes the tidal wave, though. The second Cyclone, the bubble to follow it up. Devil Grey was the target. That means Lamb's Respite's going to come out. Lunar is in the wings, but again, it's just not enough damage. They got Devil Grey close to being dead, and that's good enough for them.
Yeah, with Big Beagle down, with those big cooldowns burnt as well, there is once again a window for CCG to push. Yes, they are down 4 out of their 5 ultimates, but they still have the pressure advantage. Yes, Baron has fallen off, but they have the health advantage, and they're going to take advantage of this by taking the final turret outside of the base.
And that's
doing
huge.
a really good job as they reach 6,500 gold up.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is a huge jump, especially considering at 20 minutes we were looking at maybe 1K. And we were looking at 3 towers to 1 tower. So if you're gonna give up the dragons to a scaling team like Beagle Brothers is looking at here, you have to get pressure elsewhere. And since we've seen so much pressure in terms of like getting aggressive vision down, I'm not surprised that the tower game is the way that CCG wants to play this. And it's one of those things where I'm rarely saying don't go for dragons, but if you're able to get towers instead, that's the way to push it.
Yeah, admittedly, Chemtech is a very good soul to have, especially when you have a Kindred on the map, because it allows you to really lock in that increased damage for the period of time that Lamb's Respite is alive. That being said, though, it's not as impactful or directly impactful as, say, a Cloud Soul would be, or an Infernal Soul, or potentially even a Mountain Soul here, helping to relieve some of that burst pressure. So I do like this from CCG, the giving up of the Drakes, and if they can sneak an Elder like they snuck Baron, that would be even more potential here for them to turn this game on its head further than it already is.
Yeah, further than it already is, because there's no guarantees here. This is absolutely not the end. We're 25 minutes in, and looking at a 6.5K differential, yeah, it's a decent amount, but at 25 minutes, it's not massive. And it's certainly recoverable. It's a great charm right there onto the backside. Rain is going to be the first target. The Cyclone comes out. The Culling comes out. Realms is going to be the first to go down. In the meantime, everybody's trying to focus on the backside on Rain, but they can't take him down. And the rest of the team for CCG is just saying, all right, go ahead, distract him. You know what? We'll take that kill, and we'll try to pinch around the backside. Shocky maybe looking for a re-engaged. Deathwalker and Z-Score both have full health, so it's going to be a really risky play if they decide to do it. Brahudo might get picked out here. It's a nice bubble, and it's the engage on a Big Beagle who has to flash away the jump forward. Ragnarok comes out. Lamb's Respite is going to be so pivotal right here in this fight, and it's just too much damage going on to CCG. Shocky with the last of the Ragnarok is trying to run away from this one. Big Beagle ease forward, and Z-Score is going to be able to lock one while Big Beagle takes the final. That's the ace, and that is going to be sole point here for Beagle Brothers.
So unfortunate for CCG. Beagle Brothers just had the better timing and the better response out of that Lamb's Respite. They were able to take down 3 members almost instantly the moment that expired. That's huge for them. Yes, they lost Devil to Gray, but they won so much. And all of that pressure that CCG has been building up, all of the map pressure that they've been building, the tempo advantages that they have had, it's all just evaporated because they had the momentum and now they're backpedaling.
And that's exactly why I was saying, you know, it's not all done and dusted, right? You've got a 6K gold lead that at 25 minutes can evaporate with a play or two, and that halfway did it right
Absolutely.
there for Beagle Brothers. The thing that, you know, this has been kind of my concern since once we hit 15 minutes and we didn't see the pressure, we didn't see a single kill on this Lucian, is when we're talking scaling champs, man, you got some of the best scaling champs on the side of Beagle Brothers. You let this Kindred, like, get stacked up. You let this Lissandra get stacked up, and things are not going to be fun for CCG. Shocky is doing a fantastic job, but this Wukong isn't providing as much of that frontline feel and the engage that they would really like for CCG because there's just so much resilience for Beagle Brothers right now.
Yeah, they've done a great job of really helping to minimize what CCG can do. That being said, we're seeing another Baron sneak here. Just relentless. And this one, even slower to respond is CCG. The Lissandra's on the wrong side of the map. So this is a numbers advantage team fight until that TP comes in.
The teleport, the tidal wave is going to be the double pop-up. It's so much damage. The Cyclone Prod comes out, and in goes the Ragnarok. Looter is really low. He's got that double buff. Doesn't want to give it to the wrong member. Lamb's Respite is going to land once again. Can Looter get out of this? It's a double kill for that Kindred right before Devil to Great goes down. Brahudo, though, will not fall, and it's all up to Shocky and this Nami. The bubble, unfortunately, not going to hit. Realm's trying to re-engage, knowing that he's done. He's going for that Blast Cone, and he's going to be able to get himself solo in that. So that's the end of the fight. But, man, let's see a replay of that one.
Just absolutely beautiful here by CCG, forcing the team to split, getting the major damage dealers down early, and staying alive, using the Lamb's Respite for their own benefit here. Yes, they did lose the Lucian on the way out, but Shocky still full health at the end of the fight. That is absolutely indefensible for the Beagle Brothers.
Yeah. You know, it looked, at the end of the day, I think it was a 4 for 3. Right, so definitely a good play by CCG. They were able to split realms back behind on that fight. But what can we make out of it? Really solid vision right now from CCG, particularly towards this river, and going to be able to clear out a little bit of that for Beagle Brothers.
Yeah, the problem for the Beagle Brothers is there's exactly one member of this CCG team that can currently win fights. That member is Shocky. The problem is that Shocky is very, very hard to kill and is very annoying if left unchecked, as we saw in that fight. So while you can't really target the tank, you almost have to target the tank because there's not a whole lot else. And when the tank is left alone on the other side of the map and is able to push, CCG can continue to try and rush down Baron. The third attempt here, Jolly, they just won't leave the worm alone.
They won't, but you know what? This time it's actually the Beagle Brothers that are getting the start on this. They've got a lot of damage for themselves. It's going to have to be a tricky one to try to steal it. It won't be taken. That's all 5 members that get the Baron buff, and they are just going to do a quick reset. Everyone should be able to recall safely. Maybe a little bit of pressure from CCG in response, but it's like you were saying. Also, I mean, Shocky can't do everything. It's not even only that, you know, they have to focus Shocky here, or they have to focus, you know, anyone to just get some of that pressure. But at this point where the game is at, seriously, Devil to Gray is able to stay alive so long. Big Beagle's doing real big hits of damage. This Kog'Maw hasn't even been able to really properly use the passive, and there's the engage. It's on to Brahudo of all members. That's okay. but not really what you want. The culling is going to come out. It's going to mostly hit these minions. Now Beagle Brothers pushing mid.
Yeah, maybe Baruto is not the most important member for CCG here, but losing that sustain, losing the CC threat that Nami brings to the table with a tidal wave, that's huge. That allows this Beagle Brothers team to be more aggressive here, to push through. Look how fearless they are. They're taking 2 turrets. They're likely going to take the inhibitor here and potentially even push to end the game. Nope, they are going to back out. But
Yeah, they certainly can't, like, they can just continue these pushes. Like I said, they are incredibly resilient. Um, Even though, right, we're like, okay, Maokai's their front line, and then they've got some squishies and then Emilio. Like, it's still so much
Big Beagle's
survivability,
in.
and it's a huge engage. It's Big Beagle that ends up going in. It's a ton of damage. Out comes the Ragnarok, and it's a force flash away from Shocky after all of the summoners were used. Big Beagle just waiting for Rain to come back up. There's the Lamb's Respite. Can they get Deathwalker? At least no, it's a triple kill for the Kog'Maw. Doesn't have to use his passive in this fight, and that should be the end of this game.
Yeah, that was a beautiful engage for Big Beagle, getting in there, stunning up 2 members and the clone as Baruto goes down to add insult to injury. The Beagle brothers just ran the team fights that mattered better, and it's unfortunate for CCG. They weren't really able to take advantage of what their comp needed to do, what they had drafted, and Beagle brothers just played this one better.
Yeah, they did. And my biggest qualm, I'll say it again. I know I've already said it a lot. If you take Lucian and Nami in the first pick phase, and you're not having that Wukong come down immediately at level 3, if you're not forcing out some sort of early fight, or trying to, they didn't even have dragon control, right? As Lucian and Nami, like, what are you doing if you fall behind as Lucian and Nami compared to the recoverability of something like the Kog'Maw Melio? They can at least still assist the team, right? If you have fallen behind as a Lucian, there's very little you can do. You have such short range, and this Nami was put in so many scary situations towards the end of it that it didn't really even matter for the team fights, right? Oh, goody, the tidal wave hits all the members. It doesn't change anything because they have, like, invincibility for momentarily, right? They had all of these tools that they could use. And like I said, when you're talking about scaling and late game, they had a great composition for that. You need to shut that down. You can't let that get to 25 minutes without having a massive advantage. So I liked, I liked CCG's comp. I really did. I actually, when we were looking at it, I preferred it on paper, and I might still even say in a rematch that they could take this one no problem, but not with the way that bottom lane played.
No, and yes, you're into a Kog'Maw Melio. That's a very safe lane. There's lots of distance that they can keep between you and themselves, but that shouldn't matter. You are Lucian Nami. You can move forward. Just be aggressive here. And they didn't. I mean, yes, they were ganked early. Yes, Baruto died early, and that helped snowball. But there's no defense for not using your champions the way they're meant to be used. And we saw in the top lane what happens when you do it correctly. Shocky was very far ahead. Shocky was taking the team on their back and trying to win this game for CCG.
Yeah.
But in the current meta, one member is not enough.
I was so confused because I kept being like, all right, let's, focus towards bottom. And then I kept seeing Munchie go towards, like, the top, where the top scuttle area, to try to, poke out Kindred. And he'd be like, ha ha ha, now you have to be careful because you're kind of low, but it doesn't gain you anything. Kindred's like, cool, like, thank you so much for revealing yourself here and allowing the rest of my team that might not have priority to at least push back a little bit. And they got the dragons. They were able to stack those again. That wasn't even that big of a deal because of the amount of towers that were held here by CCG. You have to just, the current meta is, if there is like a standard plan, right? And I would say that Lucian Nami is a pretty basic plan, especially in the first 3 picks of draft.
Fairly so, yeah.
You double down on it, right? You need to be really aggressive in the current meta. If you can get yourself snowballing early, no matter what, even if you're not, like, winning hard, you're stalling the scaling on the other side. And you got to invest a bit more into scaling if you're not going to put in that extra pressure. And they just didn't.
Yeah, it's unfortunate here, but this is the consequence of when you don't play to your win conditions. So for CCG, they got to clean this up. They have 4 more matches in these open qualifiers, and if they can play better to what they draft, they definitely have the potential. They just have to do it.
Yep, they have to do it. And we're going to see if they are capable of doing that a little bit later. That was our first game of the day. We do have one more, but you guys get a little bit of a break. So now's your time to run to your favorite fast food joint, grab a snack, right? Get hydrated as well. Make sure you're drinking lots of water. And at 3 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken, is when we will return and see if CCG
Absolutely.
can redeem themselves and at least take a 50 on today's games. Thank you so much for joining me here, Alls. That was a fun series. I'm glad we were able to get you back in, and I'm glad I still have my voice at the end of that one.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. Thanks for covering for me. Hopefully, it'll be
Absolutely.
a little bit more even in game 2.
Oh yeah, we'll look forward to it again. 3 p.m. Eastern time. This is the place, and we are the names. So we will see you then. Thanks for tuning in.